Hello, it's Jamila Ibrahimova.
And Zura Mamagulashvili.
You are watching GIPA Time.
Center Point case. Company's general director is charged with pre-trial detention. Omar Al-Shishan killed. Tarkhan Batirashvili's death is confirmed by ISIS. Election of judges. Members of Lawyers Association protesting against candidates. Center Point General Director is charged with pre-trial detention. City Court made a decision today morning. Gukar Cheulishvili, along with his mother, Maya Cheulishvili, is accused in fraud. Nino Abdaladze and Katerina Zhgenti report from Tbilisi City Court.
The court process of Centerpoint General Director Gukar Cheulishvili was held today. The decision was made to leave him in preliminary detention considering the existing circumstances. Vakhtang Cheulishvili left the process earlier, before the judge announced final decision.
He agrees with the factual circumstances that he has taken the money and spent it, but he does not confess any guilt. Prosecutor's office calls this fraud, say that there is no such thing. We have the written evidence about the case. Also the testimony of the witnesses. They are the employees of Magnolia and the employees of Centerpoint Ajara. From these testimonies, we prove that it was a fraud.
As Mayer Cheulishvili's niece Nino Daraseli claims, Salome Charkuyani and Georgi Mindeli are innocent.
კიდევ რა შეიძლება მოხდეს, რომ ადამიანები, რომლებიც მხოლოდ მუშაობდნენ.
What else can happen that those people who were only working there for a small period of time are put in prison because of us? Nobody wants freedom if other people suffer. My aunt is already in prison. Guka is in prison. My mother appears on TV every day begging to arrest her. What else should we do that the court process is not delayed and these people don't suffer?
There's a lot of evidence connected to Salome Charkuyani proving that she is guilty.
Batirashvili's death is confirmed by ISIS. A senior commander and member of ISIS was reported dead by Pentagon on March 8, but ISIS denied the information then. Batirashvili is one of the most wanted terror facilitators from the Islamic State group. Sofa Basadze explored the issue.
Alhamdulillah, сегодня мы обрадуем очень, что мы есть участники, которые мы разрушили эти границы, которые...
ISIS confirms a senior commander was killed. Amaq agency says Abu Omar al-Shishan, also known as Omar the Chechen, was killed. The Pentagon is trying to verify whether the commander died in one of their recent attacks. Minister of War Omar the Chechen, Abu Omar al-Shishan. Tarkhan Batirashvili was born in 1986 in a small village of Birgiani, Bangisi Gorge, Georgia. Tarkhan finished high school and in 2006 he got drafted into Georgian military service. The jihad in Syria and Iraq was not Shishan's first experience with combat. He previously served in Georgian army during the war with Russia in 2008. 2 years later, Tarkhan's military career came to an end. He returned to his village in Bangisi. Shishan was traveled to Egypt possibly in February 2011. In late 2011, Shishan found himself in Turkey to get to Syria. Shishan's army of emigrants formed in March 2013, pledged allegiance to ISIS for jihad against the Syrian regime. On March 8, 2016, the Pentagon announced it had targeted Shishan in airstrikes near the town of Al-Shaddadid in eastern Syria. Subsequent reports have claimed Shishani was clinically dead. Then reports quoting Pentagon officials said that Shishani survived the attack, but then died of his injuries. Today, ISIS has confirmed a senior commander has been killed.
It can be some kind of link in case to cover up his appearance in other territories, so-called controlled territories by ICC, because you mentioned the information which was spread out in March and was proved that Omar al-Shishan was killed. But it was mentioned Syria at that time. Now he reportedly killed in Iraq. So it can be still leaked information in case of covering up high-ranking ISIS militaries' appearance in other territories.
We invited Dominic Sagara to our studio. He is journalist affiliated with media outlets, the Institute for War and Peace Reporting, the Clarion and DP Watch. Zura will have an interview with him.
Hello, Dominic. Thanks for being here. Now let's start, right? So the first question is, why it's important that 4 months later ISIS proved Batarashvili's death?
It's important because before we didn't have a clear confirmation. Like the reports differed. United States claimed that he was killed in Syria during a military airstrike, but no confirmations were coming from sources in ISIS, and also family of Tarhan Batirashvili in Pankisi didn't announce a mourning period. Right now it seems that this information is much more reliable. It says that Tarhan didn't die in Syria though, he died near Mosul in Iraq in unclear circumstances. And there are already signs coming from Pankisi, like reported by local media, saying that the family is expecting this information is true. They're still not accepting condolences, but it's pretty much becoming a fact in the valley as well.
Mm-hmm. So he was a strategic person for ISIS. So what do you think, what can his death change for ISIS or for Georgia?
Mm-hmm. For Georgia, not much. Like, it's very difficult to say what it will change for ISIS because we know very little about the internal structure of the organization. Like, we don't know how decisions are being made. Like, I can only speculate that he was a very experienced field commander. So in terms of their military capacity, like, they will definitely miss him. But unfortunately, I'm not tracking developments in Syria. Like, I focus on Caucasus more, so I cannot say much about this issue.
So you think that the confirmation doesn't mean anything for Georgia? So you think so?
I think that Tarhan Batirashvili became some kind of idol for many Muslim youths in Georgia, like who sympathize with Islamic State and like more radical strains of Islam. As for Georgia, like there was, I think it never had much influence and it will not have much influence. Like the Georgian state is obviously not supporting ISIS in any way. They are not supporting Tarhan Batirashvili. After he left Georgia, they had very little leverage over him. So, except the fact that now his name and Georgia together like will not come up so often in media reports, I cannot see like much influence.
So I wanted to ask that, what do you think, why these kind of things become popular in youth, especially not only Georgia, as we know from many countries there are youth going there and fighting and dying and so on. What do you think, what's the reason of it?
So first of all, when we talk about media attention, like there's something very peculiar about the figure of Umar Shishani. He has this exotic look, like a red-bearded terrorist, like different from what we're used to, like more darker Arab-looking fighters. He's Chechen-speaking, Kist, which means that he's at some form of intersection between Russia, West, and Chechnya. On one hand, in Western imagination, Chechens are fighting against Russia as the good guys. But also on the other hand, like they are seen as terrorists, like someone untamable, fearless, like fighting like on behalf of terrorist organizations. So because it's something more familiar to the Western public, like this peculiar person also received like more media coverage. It captivates Western imagination. When we speak about the figure of Umar Shishani here on ground in Georgia, I think he has become a form of celebrity, as I said before. And I think that his military success in Syria and Iraq like, was one of the factors like why many young kids became sympathetic to the Islamic State. He was a usual person, like everybody knew. He was trying to make a career in Georgian military, We still don't know exactly like what went wrong, but he decided to travel to Syria and fight for someone new and find his own destiny. Yeah, so like this figure definitely like had allure for local youth, and now the question is, will the myth die or will it live on? Will he become a legend or will he be forgotten?
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
This was the interview with Dominic Sagara. Now back to the news. Election of judge in High Council of Justice began today. Members of Lawyers Association protest against candidates, including those who are already appointed from 125 candidates. See details in the report.
The House of Judges has begun at the High Council of Justice today at 10 a.m. Members have discussed 20 candidates from 122. 16 members were finally chosen, but two appointments still cause a controversy and protest.
There was voting for two candidates for High Council Justice, and two of them were appointed. There are Tamara Lania and Merab Rinashvili. Those are two people who had a press conference to support Levan Murusidze, while in 2-3 days, the closed voting was scheduled.
Apart from two controversial candidates, protesters also oppose the secret voting system.
If the law will include this in the future, and the decision will be made to conduct voting, I think that to take such an important decision as to appoint the judge should happen in the secret. It is included like this in the law. However, if I hear the proof from the authors of the law project why secret voting is unnecessary, maybe I will agree.
Until the end of the day, all 65 candidates should be elected. Among them are several other judges, including Levan Murusidze, who might spark another wave of protests. The huge concrete constructions near Tzneti Street turns into danger for 48-year-old Irma Buthuzi. The wall was constructed after the flood in 2015 to protect inhabitants from potential water flow. See Ekaterina Zhgentis report.
Each and every rainy day, 49-year-old Irma Buthuzi and her family with a great fear looking into the tunnel where the river Veres flows.
Rain was pouring on child and it woke me up. When I came out, the rain was getting more intense. Then the water rushed out through the tunnel away and the whirlpool was created. This was not the first case. I live here till my childhood for 49 years already. If there has not been a tunnel and garages, this water would have rushed here for 100%.
Representatives of municipally responsible persons talk about retaining walls and reasons of its construction, also about safety of the people who live nearby the wall.
We reconstructed the project and rehabilitated all the tunnel entrance. There are 6 tunnel entrances and 1 tunnel bridge. Approximately 25-meter high protective wall was constructed near the entrance. Inside, the riverbed protective wall was built.
სათავისებთან რამოდენიმე ადგილზე გაკეთდა მდინარის კალაპოტის დამცავი კედელი.
However, there is a family of Irma Buthuzi who lives out of the safety wall.
I applied to the city hall, but they told me I am in a second category of affected people. They told me I'm not in the group of people who are being transferred. I applied to the city board as well. I'm afraid every time it rains, because if the water rushes from the tunnel, it will hit the wall that will direct the water to us. I don't know whether I will have time to run away or not.
According to public officials, all safety regulations are taken into consideration. In order to allow faster evacuation, early alarm system is installed. Also, in the nearest future, it is planned to build additional mesh for filtration.
We, with the help of MDF, are starting the reconstruction of 2 measures for filtrations that are number 1 for security. It will provide the security of whole nearby territories. These measures for filtrations are access. This mass carried by the river and stuck into the tunnels won't be stuck again, and the water level will not rise anymore. These mesh for filtrations will stop it and let just water and sand to pass through.
მომატება უკვე აღარ მოხდება, შეაჩერებს ეს ცხაურები და მხოლოდ წყალს გამოატარებს და სილოვან მასას.
Based on proposed development planned by Tbilisi City Hall, whole ravine of the river Vera should be replaced into the recreation zone.
პროექტის დაწყების წინ ავარჩიეთ სიმბოლური დამკვეთი, ანუ ვინ უნდა ყოფილიყო.
Starting the project, we choose the symbolic client. We choose that youth who was supporting the country in the times of tragedy and people who were in need. Express the solidarity, we decide that territory to be for those students who were most active in these days.
არანახული მაგალითი შესაბამისად გადავწყვიტეთ რომ მთლიანად ეს ტერიტორია ყოფილიყო იმ სტუდენტებისთვის, ვინც ყველაზე მეტად აქტიურობდა იმ დღეებში.
However, for Ilma Butkozi and her children, almost nothing is going to be changed with the amendment in zoning regulation.
It is considered that the investor should come, but what to do before the investor comes, I don't know.
During the rain, family hopes that early alarm system will work properly and they will have enough time for evacuation.
Azerbaijanis lack kindergartens in Marnela region. Only 13 kindergartens serve 118,000 residents. 7,000 children are left without preschool education. See details in Nurlan Huseinov's report.
Sakina Mamadova lives in Sabirkent village of Marneli district.
I have 2 kids, but they cannot go to kindergartens because we don't have any in our village. Some families send the kindergartens in the center of district, and its kids already know Georgian, but not all families can afford it. If we had our own kindergartens in our village, then all our kids would go and no one was left. My daughter asks me every time when they will go to kindergartens as others.
The head of preschool center in Marneli district, Tawfik Hajiev, says that lack of kindergartens is not only problem in Marneli district, it's common problem in whole Georgia. When it comes to Marneli, he says that for now we have 2,000 kids enrolled in the kindergartens, but of course it does not meet the demand of the region.
13 kindergartens for the big region where there are more than 70 villages, of course not enough. There is no kindergartens at all in the big villages like Kachagan and Kasemle. According to our own estimates, nearly 7,000 kids cannot go to kindergartens just because they don't have it.
The Saral village has also the same problem. Local residents confirm that the village has lots of problems, but kindergartens are the most important. Asuda Ismailova is also a resident of the village. Her kids cannot go to the kindergartens, and that's really what she regrets about.
Now my daughter is 3 years old and it's time for her to start preschool education. But since she cannot go here, we have to enroll her in the kindergarten in the center of Marnaule, which is really far from here and requires additional money and effort. I am a teacher and along with my lessons, I also do households. With children, it's really very difficult. If there was a kindergarten in our village which we could trust our kids, it would be very comfortable.
Muhammad Ismailov is father-in-law of Asuda Ismailova. He is also a teacher in the school. He says that kindergarten as an initial part of the whole education process is very important.
Of course, kids who have been in kindergartens before school are better than others. What I can say as a teacher is that the things that they learn in kindergartens like numbers, colors and other things make them better prepared to school. It's of course better than sitting all day in front of TVs and watching all sorts of things there, as children who don't go kindergarten do. Azerbaijani theatre in Tbilisi lacks financial assistance. The building needs renovation and newly appointed art director is waiting for budget increase. See the report from the theatre.
მეორე ამისთანაც ვირაცადმე შეხვდა სული ხდება
This is the only Azerbaijani theater in Tbilisi, Georgia. They have to have rehearsals in small room because they don't have useful stage. The building of the theater is in bad condition and it needs to be restored. Director of the theater Varlam Nikoladze, who was appointed just few months ago, struggles for the theater.
This building is one of the oldest buildings of Tbilisi. It's around 200 years old. The building served as a rehearsal place for the chorus and orchestra. At the beginning of 20th century, the building served Azerbaijani language theater group, but the group didn't exist after 7. The theater was reopened 12 years ago, but it looks only on papers. Although this is a state theater, it receives only salaries and electricity fee from the state, nothing more. That's why the salaries are so small, so funny numbers.
Actors complain about the condition of the building, saying it's impossible to work in this condition.
The biggest difficulty is the condition of the building. We have around 4,000 square meters on paper, but in reality we have only a little more than 700, which is useless. We don't have a stage. We have to play at other stage. What more could happen to one theater? We continue only to keep the only Azerbaijani theater in Georgia alive.
Since the theater has no enough resources, they use only old requisites or have to buy themselves. All this make working process difficult. Actors call for the more attention for the theater.
Tbilisi Azerbaijani theater, which has a history of 145 years, is now in such a condition. The theater was closed and reopened in 2014. Unfortunately, the building is not restored or repaired. It's impossible to have visitors here.
Experts say the building cannot be renovated. Companies, shops, cafes which occupied the building creates more troubles for the theater.
The original size of the building is 3,200 square meters. Today only square meters left for the theater. Other parts are occupied by companies, restaurants, shops and families. Experts say that the restoration of our part of the building is very dangerous because if we will touch anything here, the whole building will collapse.
31 families from Abkhazia are registered in the building. We tried to talk to them, but they categorically refused. Only known is that currently there are only 3 families. All other homes are closed up. The Ministry of Culture says that they cannot interfere privatized areas. In the letter sent to the theater on June 13, Georgi Bagratze, the Deputy Minister of the Culture, says that the budget of the theater will be increased in 2017, but the fate of the building is still unknown. The film House of Others by Georgian director Ruslan Glurjidze won the prize at the Klarovy Vary International Film Festival. The film was selected from around 200 international works. See Nanuka Brigadze and Ainur Nabilis report.
A new film by Georgian director Ruslan Glurjidze, House of Others, is one of the winners of Karlovy Vary International Film Festival. The movie that's about station after Abkhazia War is considered as the best work of the East and West competition section at the festival. As a director of movie, Ruslan Glurjidze said, it's obligatory for us to talk about Abkhazia War, which is very sensitive issue for us. The movie is about 2 families who survive physically in short, but devastating war. They occupy the hastily abandoned house but cannot start a new life in a peaceful environment, because the war has a moral impact on people and their casual life as well. Kato Jafaridze plays the role of 13-year-old girl who is living with mother and aunt. She says that playing the role was not easy because the girl is a character with multiple faces.
It was very hard. By the way, it was very interesting. It was very interesting to work with this team.
The film is the project of National Film Center. The producer of the movie and head of National Film Center, Zuro Margalashvili, said the film is the co-production of Georgia, Russia, Croatia and Spain.
We got 120,000 euros from National Film Center. Also, we found partners from other 3 countries, who contributed 600,000 euros and complemented the whole budget.
When and where the film will be shown in Georgia, it's not known yet. But Rasudan Glazhidze mentioned it might be happening in September and might be shown in Abkhazia as well.
This was the last day of our 3-day newscast. GIPA time is over. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching and being with us. Wait for the next year, students.